Hey guys, welcome to the last week of Come Follow Me for this year that we're doing in the Old Testament. And I say that because we still have Christmas, and then there's a week in between Christmas and New Year's, which is about learning independently. And I might come back on and do a couple of short little snippets on those sessions, because there's some really good tips in there on learning independently and why that's so important that we learn it for ourselves rather than rely on someone else to teach it to us. It's about learning in our way and how it works for us and how to make Come Follow Me works for us. So there's some really good tips in there. So I might pop on and do something like that. Haven't decided yet. Nonetheless, 2nd of January we get into Matthew and start the New Testament. So until then, I've got 4 insights for you this week. This is the first one. And we're going to go through Malachi. Malachi chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thus there's 4 insights. So, in Malachi 1. Now, first off, I found it interesting that Malachi means the word messenger, is just messenger. So, there's actual no evidence as to whether this was a man called Malachi or a messenger known as a Malachi, because our prophet now is also a Malachi. Our stake president in our 70s, they can be Malachis, because that word is just a messenger from God. When you go doing your ministering, you become a Malachi as well. You're a messenger from God. You're bringing a message. You're bringing it in. So where that was. But needless to say, it does not matter. It still comes from a prophet, even if his name wasn't actually Malachi and it was something else, and they just called him Malachi, like his nickname, like president, like we do now. So, who's to say? But it doesn't matter, because there's excellent words in here from a prophet that we can learn from. So let's look at these. So, in chapter 1, he comes in and he's like, sees that they're offering polluted bread on the offering and animals with blemishes. So, first off, I want to point out too that, when it says, it says the burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi, as in this is a heavy message because of your misunderstandings. And it's a heavy role to carry, but I'm going to try anyway. So like that, and then it just says that, Esau and Jacob is together, and I love Jacob. Now love there is chosen. Now Jacob chose to be chosen, and if you remember, and I can't remember whose talk it was, but there was a good one there. You can choose to, it was Elder Bedner, choose to be chosen. So because Jacob was righteous and had good desires, he was loved or chosen. And then in verse 3 it says that he hated Esau. Now that's really the wrong translation of the word there, hated. It's more of a rejection of life choices. It's lacking commitment or priority to Christ. And remember, he changed that. But in the beginning, it didn't. But needless to say, what the Lord's saying here is, I loved both of them. And there was no difference. I loved them. I didn't like his behavior. So it's not so much the person, it's the behavior. And we know that to be true today when we talk about people. We might not like their choices or their behavior, but we love the person. And whatever they decide to do. So, and then he goes on to say, they're going on, but you haven't blessed us like you're supposed to. They've got this wrong mentality about what it is to be blessed and how to go about it. It says in verse 7, ye offer polluted bread upon my altar, and ye say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that ye say the table of the Lord is contemptible. And then in 8, if ye offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if ye offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith the Lord of hosts? And he goes on to talk about that. And it's like, you know what? Are you giving God your leftovers? Because that's what they were doing. They were going out and getting the stale bread that was going mouldy. They were getting the dumb, blind, half three-legged lamb, whatever, and thinking, well, nobody's going to want to eat that one because look at it, it's pretty manky. We'll sacrifice that one. And what Christ is saying to them is if you went and offered this to your governor, or in our case in New Zealand, be a prime minister, in America it would be the president, would he be impressed with that offering? And of course not. So what makes a polluted offering? Well, that it's not it's not good. It's not your best effort. If you're going to give a gift to someone, do you literally just, go out into the garden and get a stick and go, here you go, I got your Harry Potter wand? It's not the same, right? It's cheap. And especially when, these offerings of the first newborn lamb without blemish is a similitude of Christ's atonement. What are you then saying about Christ? So think about that too. What makes a polluted offering and what makes a pure offering? And it's going to be different for all of us. It's going to look different for our lives and what we have to offer. And we talk later about the widow's 2 mites, and we talk about tithing. That's all she had to offer. That's a completely beautiful, pure offering. That's not polluted at all. If that was your last crust of bread and that's all you had, then that's a good offering. It's but this wasn't the case with them. They had better, and they were giving the Lord their scraps. So yeah, a burnt offering, remember, was to be pure, as perfect as could be, is a similitude of Christ. So how would you feel, think about, for Christmas this year, if someone gave you a half-eaten box of chocolates and they'd eaten all the ones they liked and left the ones that you didn't? Now, that might be all right coming from a 2 or 3-year-old who's just like, well, I don't have anything else and I don't like these ones, so I'll give them to you. It becomes cute. But when you're 30 to 40 years old or more, and you have access to like a whole factory full of boxes of chocolates and you give someone a half-eaten one of the ones you didn't like, it's an insult. That's not cool. And they were doing this, it was their tick box vending machine mentality, as in like, we've ticked the box for the sacrifice, where's our blessings, bring them on. And it's like, that's just not how it works. It's a prosperity gospel is what they live when they do this. When people do this, it's called a prosperity gospel. So they're only doing it because of what they're going to get. Like, you said if I do this, I'll get this. So I'll do this, so where's this? And it's just not how it is. The Lord will continue to tear everything down that you do until you humble yourself and let Him prevail and do it in the way He would love you to do it. You might build it up and it's going to fall, it's going to fail. And yet what the Lord builds up and in His way, in His plan, does not. So there you go. Think about that. Are you giving God your leftovers? Are you offering to Christ that Christmas present, that cake, Christmas cake that nobody wants, that circles around every year, that people just keep passing on? Are you giving them your leftovers, or are you offering your finest? Think about that. President Eyring, he said, we grow closer to the Saviour as we, out of pure love, serve others for Him. And that's part of what we can do as far as, because we don't go out and sacrifice anymore in animals, because we don't need to, but we sacrifice our time, we give our talents, we make effort. And if we're doing that with a leftover mentality, with like, I'll just give you what I've got at the end of the day, or I can't right now, I've got other things to do, it's not as important. You gotta really look at those priorities, and the closer you can get to the Saviour, because we're serving out of pure love for others, we really do feel that closeness. And then you no longer want to give them, you're not just giving them the Christmas present or the offering because they're there. It's not like a work colleague who you sometimes associate with. He's now your best friend and you want to give him something really awesome. So it's maybe a good lesson to take into Christmas time. And that it doesn't have to be about money. It's just got to be your best. What can you offer the Saviour this Christmas? What can you offer Him every day? Or are you giving Him leftovers? It's a good lesson to learn and look at. So that's Malachi 1 in a nutshell, basically. Stop that tick box vending machine mentality that I think it was Elder Renlund talked about, the tick box mentality. The vending machine is, put in stuff, get stuff out. It's not a cosmic vending machine. It does not work that way. We do indeed get blessed, probably just not how we're going to think. So have a look at that. And again, are you giving your finest effort? Are you giving your best? Or are you giving God your scraps, your table scraps, your leftovers, the bits nobody else wants? Interesting, right? All right. Okay, hang around. I'm going to go over to Malachi 2 and discuss that. I'll see you there.